that kind of a program. Before you put them on an abdominal program, a myofascial release program, before you would do anything neurologically with them, you better show them how to get air out of their system so that the next breath they take in, they don't extend. And if they can do that, then you can lift all you want because you'll still be neutral. Neutral means you own your zone of apposition. You've got it. Neutral means you can shift. You test neutral. You put your car between reverse and go, don't you? With a neutral mark, N. All these people need to learn is how to what? Stop. How are you going to get them to stop being so extended? What do they have to do with their knees and their arms? Reach. Diaphragm contraction pulls ventrally the thorax up and superiorly, creating this thing called lordosis. And lordosis limits your ability to extend your hip. So the more lordotic you are, the less you can extend your hip. The less lordotic you are, and the more zoned you are, the more you can extend your hip. The more you can extend your hip, the more, Mike, you can rotate. The more you can rotate, the better you're going to breathe. See, it's rolling because it's a fact. So if you lose hip extension and your hamstrings and your abs and your glutes for hip extension, and lordosis enters the picture, this L word, the next thing you know is you are dropping off your zones of apposition and you're becoming pullers. And pullers, I think we understand where that's going. Exhalation becomes passive, inhalation increases. Now, a lot of you think that's probably a good thing. That's the worst thing in the world that can happen to you. You're going to now get short of breath and anxious, and you're going to need some Xanax, and you're going to need something to calm you down because you're sympathetically now driven. Your O2 is high. Your CO2 is low. Your rhythm sinus of your heart changes. So exhalation becomes passive. That's what you're doing to me, Brianna, today. Do you see that? It changes, doesn't it, Brianna? It changes. Your exhalation becomes passive, and the rate of inhalation increases. So these people are doing this. They're breathing fast, then they stop. Then they breathe fast, and then they stop. And they're becoming hyperinflated in the process, and hypocapnia and alkalinity up. Okay, so nocturnal mouth breathing accompanies that. Bruxing does. There's that word hyperinflation. We have a good day of that tomorrow. The diaphragm becomes a little bit more flattened, and you start to see your rib cage migrate up and out. Everybody just stand up and just do this for me, okay? Just stand up on your 2 feet and put your hands on your rib cage. If you put your thumb on your lower ribs, I'd be happy with that. And just put your hands gently on your abdominal tissue. So way down low here. Very good. Okay. And if you were smart, your thumbs would be going up, the tips up, and the palms would be going down. Okay? Now here I go. I'm going to breathe in. I want you to extend when you do. Everybody extend when you do. Now stay there. Blow out. But don't come forward. Breathe in. Extend some more. Stay there. Blow out. Don't come forward. Blow. It's going to get harder and harder for you to do what? Blow. You can still breathe in, but you're never going to be able to get it all out now. Why? Why can't you get it out? Because your ribs cannot internally rotate. What brought your ribs up into that position? What kept them in a state of out and upward external rotation? Lordosis, extension. Now, 24-hour that, 7 days a week that, 52 weeks a year that, 52 years of that. Are you kind of with me? Have a seat. That's somebody who cannot re-round their diaphragm. Their diaphragm is too what? Flat. It got too straight. It could never come back what? Down. What bone is going to change that process? 4-letter word. Ribs. Ribs are going to change that process. Not your spine. Not your neck. Ribs. Ribs are going to stop lordosis. Because what you're going to do with ribs, you know the other R word, it's not ribs. You're going to learn how to what? Reach with ribs. And if you reach with ribs, you have just the reverse of what you did when you stood there. You now are going to breathe in. Air is going to come in. When you blow out, you're going to go down. And it's going to be now easier to breathe in than it was when your ribs were going up, up, and up, and up. You can get it in, but you were never getting it what? Out. So let's ask the question. How can people exchange air in their alveolar tissue if the air that's in there is never moving out? You know where your best alveolar tissue is? Your uvula. Because that's as far as air is going to get. Unfortunately, I got to tell you, you have no bronchial tree in the uvula. So throats get dry. You're moving a lot of air in and out of a windpipe, but it never got into the what? Lungs. Daryl, that's kind of a novel idea, isn't it? To really use lung tissue, you've got to reach and rotate ribs. That's the only way you're going to get the lung tissue to move. What bone is responsible for ventilation? The ribs. Okay? So there it is, the rib cage. Otherwise, if your rib cage stays up in the air, you can't ventilate. And I'm just showing you that happens when your state of inhalation is easier than your state of exhalation. I want to make your state of inhalation more difficult than the state of exhalation. Did you hear what I just said? And that happens when you what, Stephanie? Reach. How about the next word? Push. Did I lose anybody? We good? How are we doing? Now you understand lordosis. And if you understand lordosis, you understand spinal pain. And if you understand spinal pain, you understand management of pain. Management of pain is going to go easier if you expand your rib cage to decompress your spine so your diaphragm doesn't have to stay flat. So underline the word flattened. Our goal is to keep your diaphragm rounded, not flattened on page 48. Rounded. That's in your appendix, by the way. Page 48 in the appendix. Right? Jen, they have that, right? You're going to help me out, Gail.
48.
Yes. So this is hyperventilation, but the word flattened is that true? Is that on page 48? Yeah. Okay. So underline that word flattened. And the concept, Jen, I'm trying to cover right now for this course is, do we want our diaphragms to be rounded or flat? Rounded. We want them rounded. Are the diaphragms postural muscles when they're rounded? No. What are they when they're rounded? I know this is somewhat confusing, but what are they when they're rounded? They're respiratory. What are they when they are flattened? They're postural. You're taking a postural respiration course. Not to make diaphragms flat. We've got a lot of that going on. But to reverse it. And then on page 48, we want this carbon dioxide thing to come back up. Your pH value above 7.4 makes you a little bit anxious. You want to fight people. You get kind of edgy. You're restricting circulation, and your cerebral cortex knows it. Circle number D. You shut blood flow away, you shut it away from the periphery and goes into that center of your body. You impair your arterial flow. Your breathing becomes weak. Your diaphragm becomes weak. It's overworked. It's fatigued. It's posturally active at night and during the day, and it can't do what it was meant to do. Your sympathetic adrenaline's going. You get these neuropathies, your phobias, everything's doomsday. Everything, man, I don't know, maybe I should just take my life right now because my kid's going to get a B in his class instead of an A. Okay? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Hypervigilant people are walking around everywhere. And I see that hypervigilance, it's sad. They're so distraught over the simplest little things because they're sympathetically what, Gail? Driven. Their pH is out of balance. So facilitates this catastrophic thinking. We can easily, I love this quote by Gilbert, we can easily disrupt your pH balance with 2 or 3 breaths. Your pH will rise from 7.4 to 7.5, or your CO2 will fall from a normal of 40 to 30 or 20 in less than 30 seconds with just good thoracic what? Breathing. Now when you read that, when you say thoracic breathing, that's what he said. What you ought to rewrite there is say, with thoracic shifting, with thoracic rotation. That's good thoracic breathing. Cervical spines become very reversed. Here's an example of one. And they become reversed on people without trauma. I moved off a little too fast. My next slide prompted me to remind you that I see flattened cervical spines in these kinds of people. How do you know the first one? Monitor lovers. iPad users. Okay? Monitor lovers. I see it in people who sing. I see people I see it in engineers. I see it in accountants. People who sit. I see this. No trauma. Do you understand? No trauma to the neck. Could have trauma to the neck. But I see people who have to renegotiate a pillar for support to breathe with accessory muscle while they are steadily securing their spine with non-moving ribs to hit little teeny buttons that say A, B, C, D on them with big fingers and thumbs. You guys with me? Keyboards and mouses that have no cats to chase them away. I'm kind of being funny. But do you understand what I'm saying? People who distally are active, requiring stability centrally through a ventilatory system. That's what I see. They're the same people that go work out in a gym 3 times a week with the same system. Or take the Pilates classes with the same system. Or carry their physical therapy exercises out with the same system. Do you see how much work we could do for these people to teach them how to use monitors without that system? Does that make sense? So neurologically, you have a handout that have 5 exercises first. Sounds like a bag of fertilizer. 10 exercises next to choose from, and 5 finally for the phosphorus. Get the nitrogen, get what we need to grow, to stay healthy. 5, 10, 5. Pick one of those 5, 10, 5. So I know you don't end up like this. Does that make sense? I want to make sure your rib cage does what? Rotate and shift, so you don't end up like this. I want to make sure you're texting in certain directions. I want to make sure you change your bed once in a while. Not the bed, you in it. If you like on the left side, get on the right side. I want to make sure you're on one side of the room and then on the other side of the room. Jen and I have been on one side of the plane for the last 6 plane trips. Put me on the other side. Do you understand what I'm trying to get across? You got to alternate your function or else you get like that. We'll get what? Now here we go, chicken or the egg. If you habitually do not alternate your function, the chances of you using ventilatory activity for posture is pretty what, everybody?